Hello and welcome to Insanity XD. I am your sweet sounding host speaking. Remember, if you do not hear me, then it is simply not official. Today's topic is a review of the legendary Ip Man franchise. Honestly, this ish will have you thinking you can fight the whole of China and come out on top, on God. I will be reviewing all of the 4 movies as if they were one whole story, but don't worry, I'll distinguish between them. In case you don't know who this guy is, he's basically the Grand Master of Wing Chun, a martial arts style, and he was the teacher of Bruce Lee. Kicking off with the OG film, we have Ip Man 1. In 1935, Fo Shen is a melding pot of southern Chinese martial arts, where the various schools basically compete for students, sort of like IRL, to be honest, with, schools and stuff. To be honest, Ip Man is the top dog, but he likes to keep it low-key. Occasionally he'll throw hands with a master, but this is always behind closed doors. This is for a good reason, as one day, oh my god, I just realized I sniffed, I'm sorry. Anyway, but this Yu loses his Kaip in Ip Man's luscious crib, and he sees our boy 200 pump this Kung Fu Master Lee in a creative match. Now this kid is basically a gossip girl, and he spreads the news around town, which causes a lot of embarrassment for the guy who lost. Now it's at this time that the Japanese invade during the Second Sino-Japanese War. Ip and his family are forced to move into a 1-bedroom flat, basically like the ones you get in southwest London, but we'll get into that in another video. After the Imperial Japanese Army decide to use his head as a military quarters, Ip Man decides he has to sell all of his jewelry for food. At one point, he sells this really nice watch. I mean, it's not a Rolex, but it might as well be. So he starts putting in work at a coal mine when one day this general shows up. He's a karate master, and he has decided to set up an arena where Chinese martial artists can basically challenge his military trainees for a bag of rice. Could have thrown in some veggies, don't you think? So, oh god, guys, I made a mistake, sorry. It's actually the interpreter who visits the mine to recruit anyone willing to fight. Ip at first is like, nah, I'm kind of good, you know. But he agrees once he realizes his boy Lin didn't return from his fight there. Ip Man pulls up to this arena and sees a guy called Lu get shot in the back of the head because this guy picked up a bag of rice from a prior victory, but he decided he didn't want to fight 3 guys at once, so he had to go. Ip does a bit of detective work and basically figures out that Lin was killed. So Ip decides to have a match with all 10 at once. Now what follows is honestly the best fight in the franchise. It's honestly live action anime. The choreography is on point. Now our boy wins his bag of rice, but he refuses to accept it and he quietly picks up Lin's bloodstained bag instead and gives it to his suffering family. I was going to say surviving, but we might as well say that as well. I'm going to butcher this, guys. Jin Shanzhao. Jin Shanzhao. There we go. A highly skilled northern Chinese martial arts master who once defeated all the masters in Fo Shen except the goat, of course. Now leads a bandit gang, and he basically G-checks the workers at a cotton mill daily. Since it's run by one of Ip's friends, he agrees to train the workers in Wing Chun for self-defense, of course, not for attack purposes. The workers are now able to throw hands with the gang once they come to G-check them, and they hold off long enough for Ip to arrive and 1v1 the 2 bosses. I like this fight. It's a bit whimsical, but it's very serious when Ip gets involved. After running them out of the ends, Ip confronts Yuan. I think I said it right. Berate me if I didn't. And gives him a small tin that belonged to Lin after informing them of his brother's death. Oh, I should have noticed. One is the guy who lost the kite, by the way. Sorry. So anyway, he opens it and finds the kite inside. Oh, and there's this note, and he's basically his brother's like, oh, I love you, and stuff like that. Well, we actually don't see it. I'm just guessing it. I don't know why this guy expected Ip to come back to his creative lobby. Like, this is the Chinese general. He actually expected Ip to come back, which is crazy. After he 1-pumped his squad, but Ip does not return. So guess what he does? He sends the General Sato and 2 soldiers to track him down, basically bounty hunters, although they're not doing any bounty work. Ip smacks the ish out of these goons when they run to his house though, and his family flee and hide in one of his mates' house. The Japanese learn about the cotton mill and the Wing Chun practitioners, and guess what? They take the workers hostage. Now, this is where you have to rate Ip. For the sake of the people, he surrenders himself to the Japanese, but luckily, he arranges for his wife and son to be sent to Hong Kong, which we'll get back to in Ip Man 2. Mura asks Ip to train the Japanese soldiers in Chinese martial arts, but Ip, of course, refuses. Why would he do that? Seriously, why do these villains have these really bad ideas that they think are just gonna work? So, Ip refuses, but he decides to, take a challenge at Mura. Sorry guys. Even the General Sato is like, this is bad, man. Just murk him, bro. But Mura accepts the challenge to uphold his honor and sees this as a way to crush the Chinese spirit. Sato threatens to dox Ip if he does not allow the general to win, but you can guess what Ip does, as he doesn't bow to anyone. With all of the mandem watching, Ip basically schools Mira after a long and grueling fight. Unfortunately, that goon Sato gets a sneaky third-party shot on Ip, but it's not fatal and the crowd overwhelms the Japanese soldiers surrounding the match. Ip dips out during the chase. Chaos, damn it. And manages to escape to Hong Kong. I'm sorry for the slip up, guys. As you can tell, I'm a bit excited. Now on to Ip Man 2. This is basically a filler movie with a bit of canon mixed in. Originally, it was meant to be centered around Ip training Bruce Lee, but they were unable to get film rights with Lee's descendants. Like, dude, are you kidding me? Did you see the first film? Why didn't they say yes? Anyway, we get this film. It's really enjoyable nonetheless. If I'm honest, it's pretty funny seeing Twister's antics, and the fights are on a level up from the first in terms of volume, that is. So our story begins in 1950. Ip is trying to open a martial arts school, but he's struggling to attach students due to his lack of clout in the city. One day, a youth called Wan Shun Leng, guys, I'm really, really sorry about this. Wan Shun Lian. You know, I could actually probably pronounce him if I say it slower. Anyway, so he appears and he challenges Ip to a scrap, but he gets his ass handed to him on a silver platter. Like, this guy gets clapped. Wan comes back with around 20 men looking for smoke, but Ip easily beats them on the rooftops. These guys are so stunned and impressed by Ip's skills, they're just like, can you train us? And because Ip's just such a good guy, sees the best in people, he's like, yeah. Honestly, I think he did it because he needed the money, but he also genuinely wanted to teach these young boys, you know? Like I said, Ip's just generally a good guy. Okay, now Wan is in love with Ip. I'm joking, but he does simp for him. He decides to promote his channel around, I'm joking when I said it, he decides to promote his school around, of course, Hong Kong, but the God, why am I slipping up on such simple words? Those students catch him putting up posters on their turf, and the top dog K challenges Wan to a fight and loses. But like all one-on-one fights, when the loser brings his mandem, they jump Wan and take him hostage. This is how you can sort of tell this one was like changed, the original script, because there's some parts which just don't make sense. So anyway, Ip goes to the local fish market as directed in the ransom letter. Like, okay, honestly, what do these guys expect Ip to pull up with the bag? One, he's broke, and two, you're about to get broken. He's here to save his boy, but the meeting ends in a confrontation with a massive mob of Hanga students. Like, on God, it's 50 men. 50 men against Ip, probably even more. He manages to fight his way out of this fishy situation, but this fight is honestly one of my faves. The choreography and the setting is on top tier. We see Ip use planks of wood, his fists, and 2 machetes to fight these goons. Ip, of course, is holding back as he's not looking to catch a case. The student's master and head of the coalition of Chinese martial arts clubs, Han Shunam, arrives to break up the fight. Ip decides to introduce himself as no publicity is bad publicity, and Han informs him that before setting up a school, he needs to take part in a special ceremony to test his worth and cough up a fat bag. Ip and his boys are arrested by Fatso. I love that name, Fatso, a deputy chief of the Hong Kong Police Department for disturbing the peace, but they're later released on bail. Dude, while you're there, why don't they arrest the others for kidnapping? Why did no one say anything? This is Meanwhile, Han and Fatso secretly meet with Superintendent Wallace, the Hong Kong Police Department's corrupt British commandant. I was going to say commandment. Sorry, to deliver protection money collected from basically local shops and clubs. Normally, I'm always on the side of the UK. I love this place to death, but come on, man, that just ain't nice. Ip attends the ceremony, and this is where we get the best fight of the movie. We see Ip run the gauntlet against 3 high-level opponents. He easily defeats his first 2 challengers, but before having a toe-to-toe battle with the last challenger, Han. This fight is wild. Takes place in the restaurant-esque setting, and the fight the fight takes place on top of a table. Honestly, it's live-action anime at this point. Ip is allowed to keep running the school in exchange for paying protection fees, but you know our boy doesn't like to fork out for nothing. So Han has his students deliberately lurk in Ip's ends and G-check anyone in their sight. This results in a miniature gang war between the Han Ga and Wing Chun disciples. Ip's landlady has had enough and evicts Ip to leave, but this isn't stopping Ip, and he continues to train his students in a park. You gotta appreciate the loyalty of these guys to their master, honestly. Ip confronts Han, who blames him for the recent events since he refused to pay Ip, and Ip just basically criticized Han's management of his students and subservience to the followers, which are foreigners, which I'm all for. How many blimmin' hell, how many stutters have I made in this take? Like over 20, I think. Han hints at the corruption by saying that he's doing what he must and attacks Ip. This fight isn't as wild as the first, as Han's son suddenly appears. Wow, tongue twister. During the beef, and Ip luckily stops Han from fatally kicking the boy. He also makes the suggestion that he prioritizes spending time with his family prioritize spending time with his family over settling the dispute. You gotta love this guy. Telling the dude not only how to run his business, but also telling him how to run his household. Ip masters calling as a therapist, in my opinion. Ip's advice earns him Hun's respect, which I find hilarious. And the next day, Hun gives Ip and his students free tickets to a martial art exhibition arranged by Wallace and Fatso. At the exhibition, the various martial arts schools seek to promote themselves and also Chinese culture. Okay, this is where we see the introduction. Oh, okay, guys, you might not like this guy as a villain. He's the weakest written villain in the entire quad. I think it's a quad tetralogy. It's a Greek word. Anyway, this is the introduction of our filler villain, Wallace's guest, Taylor, the Twister Miller, who decides to insult and assault the students within 2 minutes of being introduced. 2 minutes of being introduced and he's throwing hands. What the can't swear. Which causes a massive brawl, which is eventually stopped by the Masters. Hun demands that Twister apologizes for not only starting the fight, but also offending the history of Chinese culture. In typical villain response, Twister challenges Hun to a fight, saying that he'll only apologize for his behavior if Hun wins. Now, at first, Hun's wide range of skills and techniques allowed him to hold his own against the Smoke Demon. However, most of his counterattacks have little effect on Twister due to plot armor, and his health bar is slowly worn down by the boxer's powerful punches. Ip tries to persuade Hun to rage quit, but Hun refuses, and he even stops Ip from throwing in the towel for him. In the final round, Hun suffers from an asthma attack, which we see no signs of previous to this. Well, we do actually, there is one, sorry. And Twister Twister just beats him to death against the ropes. Why? Anyway, news of this death spreads throughout the city, enraging the Chinese populace. Wallace's boss scolds him for letting his dog off the leash, and Wallace then arrests and tortures Ip's friend, the newspaper editor, Leon Can, for publishing the news and also to let off some steam. Who tortures people to let off steam? Like, just play Doom Eternal. Fatso interviews and releases him with no charges. A press conference is held the following day where Wallace straight up lies about Hun's death being accidental and down to an asthma attack. Bro, last time I checked, an asthma attack doesn't leave you with 1,000 blows to the body. Quite literally, as you can't breathe. Twister, drunk off the liquor, announces that in order to clear his name, he should, because he's innocent, right? Anyway, he accepted the challenge. He will accept the challenge from any Chinese martial artist. Guys, I'm sorry, I got a cough. Yeah, that was disgusting anyway. However, in traditional filler villain fashion, he continues to disrespect the Chinese and boasts that none of them have the courage to face him. But we know one man who does. Our boy Ip arrives and challenges Twister to a fight. Fatso secretly meets with Khan during this and, offers him compromising information. Basically whistleblowing. Oh, snap! I forgot to mention Ip's wife is pregnant with their second child. I'm sorry, there was just so much to talk about. Anyway, so the first kids at college from the first film. Oh yeah, guys, this isn't really a spoiler. We never see that guy again. We never see him again. He's gone for good. We never see him again. Anyway, and his pregnant wife goes into labor as Ip is training for his match against Twister. While he's hitting the wooden Wing Chun, not doll. It's like I'm not gonna even attempt to say it because I don't want to disrespect the butcher it. But anyway. The match starts badly for Ip due to his unfamiliar style with Western boxing, allowing Twister to knock him down several times. He gradually manages to use his Wing Chun techniques and superior speed to gain the upper hand. Sensing their plot armor is wearing thin, Wallace and his allies attempt to rig the match in Twister's favor, refusing to basically penalize him for an illegal hit after the bell, and issuing a rule that Ip cannot use kicks or he will be disqualified. After seeing visions of Hun and remembering his advice to focus on weakening Twister rather than trade blows with him, Ip switches up his fighting style, breaking Twister's arms and eventually manages to KO him with a series of strikes to the head and ears. While the Chinese celebrate, Wallace's superior arrives and arrests him for corruption and abuse of power. I find this to be just a bit odd. It's like... Anyway, Ip addresses the audience and the nation by stating his wish for everyone to respect each other despite their differences between their race, culture, or status. Beautiful. Both the Western and Chinese audiences give him a standing ovation, however, and Twister manages angrily to disapprove, standing up and walking away. Sorry, Twister's manager angrily disapproves. I was thinking, how did Twister get up and walk away with both of his arms broken? Anyway, Ip goes home and just reunites with his family and names his son Ip Ching. Sometime later, one introduces his master to a boy named Bruce Lee, who wishes to learn Wing Chun in order to beat up people he doesn't like. Ip's just simply smiles at this and basically says, come back when you're a grown man. Yeah, that's the second Ip Man. Guys, I'm actually out of space for this one. We'll continue this next week, alright? If you have a complaint you wish to be known, an idea you want to be seen, and an opinion you want to be heard, please comment down below. I've been your sweet sounding host, and it's been an honor to speak to you today.